Hey lovelies, welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Thank you very much for your patience, guys. This last week I have been really busy. I went on holiday out the country for my birthday. I was so busy having so much fun. Came back to a whole lot of work. Did not even get a chance to properly record stuff for you guys. So I'm sorry that this week I was slacking, but next week is going to be better. I am going to put out as many videos as I can, so please make sure you stay tuned. If you still haven't subscribed, welcome to the channel. I do commentary on reality TV show, celebrity news, and everything in between. So please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification button so you know every single time that I post. Now let's get into this Ready to Love, honey. Yes, the finale was not giving much, I'll be honest. But let me take you through the finale. So Marie still had two connections. I'm like, I don't understand how Marie, of all people, has two connections this late in the game, in my opinion. I honestly don't see it for him and Kat. I also don't see it for him and anyone in the show, if I'm being completely honest. But let's get into the recap of the show, honey. So yes, there was the final brunch. Tommy basically told them it's time to find out, if their connection chooses them, and that the final task is for the ladies to introduce their connections to their family. And so Quentin ended up meeting Janelle's cousin, Courtney. And she starts telling her cousin that, Quentin gives her the giddy feeling and whatnot. And she kind of set it up in that way. And so then Janelle's cousin started asking, how old are you, right, to Q. And so Quentin is like, yeah, he's 34. Janelle's cousin looked like, girl, what you doing with that man that is 34? You know you're 41. You know what you want. Why are you doing that? So then Quentin started talking about he wants children and he wants at least 3 children. What was so shocking for me was that Janelle looked shocked. And I'm thinking, why are you shocked that this man wants 3 kids? Is that not something you guys have spoken about? If someone tells me they want children, my normal reaction would be like, girl, how many children you want? Tell me, right? Like, do you know how many children? Like, it would be a normal question to ask, in my opinion. So I was very shocked that Janelle seems to not realize that Quentin wants 3 kids. And so then she starts talking about she can do 1.5. I'm like, girl, what's a 1.5? Like half a baby? Like, where you going to get half a baby from? And she was very adamant. She was like, it's a hard pass on 3 kids. So I'm like, so what are you doing still talking to this man, right? Like, he wants 3 kids. You don't want 3 kids. Sometimes I even wonder whether or not you actually want children, right? I know she brought up the adoption thing, but I think perhaps she probably only wants to have that one child that she adopts as opposed to birthing children. And so, when you meet someone that is super adamant about kids, then I would say proceed with caution if you're someone who wants kids to begin with. Those are the things. If you're really saying, Quentin was talking about how he wants a big family. If you want a big family, that's something you discuss with who you meet, right? There's some people that go on to have 10 kids and all of that. Usually, they have the conversation quite early on. And then you tell your partner, oh my God, I want a big family. And then they're like, oh, I want a big family. And then, oh, wow, we connect on that. Instead, you're focusing on Janelle, who doesn't admit what you actually want. And also, let's be honest, Q does not give us the impression that he wants to get married next year. The same with Janelle wants to get married next year. So I don't really understand how that is supposed to work. But anyways, that was the end of that. So Kat brought her cousin Monica to meet Murray. So her cousin and Kat were talking before Maria got there, and she was saying oh yeah, he has a kid, and the cousin was like, girl, you're too cute to be a stepmom. I'm like, okay. Granted, Katerina is very cute, but anybody can be a stepmama, honey, but whatever. So then she just kept asking Kat questions. She was trying to find out, like, what's his relationship like with his baby mama, all of that. I'm like, girl, save all those good questions for Murray, honey. Like, you keep asking Kat all these questions. How about you, like, face Murray when he comes? Well, anyway, Maria walked in shortly afterwards. So they start talking now, and she's asking questions. And he's like, yeah, at the moment he's trying to get Sierra Leone and Ghana citizenship. And, she was like, oh, how does that fit in with Kat? And she's like, yeah, Kat and I have talked about it. I will take her with me on my travels. Kat loves traveling. So, like, she's open to moving. I'm like, Kat's cousin honestly looked shocked that Kat was willing to consider relocating. I'll be honest. She was looking like, girl, what? You're not leaving me in this country to relocate to some random place. That's what she was looking like. And then she then started asking questions about his baby mama. And he's like, oh yeah, they co-parent together and very well. And they go to like things that have to do with the child together. So like things like doctor's appointments and school things and all of that. And when I tell you, cousin Monica did not like that. She was not here for it at all. So she's like, okay, so what if your son does not like Kat? And he's like, no, that doesn't fly in his house. That basically his son needs to stay out of grown folks' business, and that's not really something he should be concerned with. Now, it's a two-way thing for me, I'll be honest. For me, I'm just thinking, if I was a parent, I would value the opinion of my child, especially because I've had and heard so many situations and know so many people who their fathers got married to a horrible stepmother who maltreated them, right? And I feel like a lot of those children knew at the start that those people weren't great, but then the father did not want to be bothered, did not want to hear their point of view, right? So I feel like it's important to let your children be vocal about how they feel about your relationship, especially if that relationship is going to affect them. Now, if it's a situation where the child is grown and no longer lives in the house, then their relationship or your relationship does not affect them, right? So you're allowed to make your decisions without necessarily considering your kid's opinion, right? Because your kid is growing out of the house and then you're making a decision that does not directly affect them in that moment, right? However, of course, I personally would still try to introduce them, see how they get on, try to ensure there's like mutual respect, whatnot, right? But at that stage, if my kid was like, oh, I just don't like him, that's not going to fly because one, you're not the one who has to live with him. I do, right? However, if we're going to be in the same space, you're going to be living under the same roof, you have to like him. I can't bring someone into your personal space, your presence, that you don't like. That's just very unfair, right? And so that's where I disagree with Mario on that. I just think, of course, if you feel like the kid is just doesn't want someone else around their parent, that's different. Those things you can easily sense. You can have those conversations. The more like you see whether or not they warm up, try to put them together, do activities together, try to spend some time together, of course, in a controlled environment. Don't bring that person home into your child's space and then be expecting your child to warm up to them. At least do like a soft launch. Go somewhere together. Go do activities together. Let them be in the space doing different things together. Let them actually try to enjoy each other's company, right? Before you then be like, yo, this is who I'm dating, right? Like, try to do it soft launch. That would be my opinion. But then again, I guess, what do I know? I'm not a parent yet, right? So I don't know, but that's just my little 2 cents. Now, back to this date, honey. The part that got me was when she told Murray to stand up. I'm like, girl, she chose violence. She's like, stand up. And Kat was saying in her confessionals that she was trying to ruffle Maria's feathers. Man, I was like, Kat is a tall, beautiful woman still. She is tall, long legs, gorgeous. And Maria was basically like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother him at all. And she was like, okay, cool. But she's like, let me remind you about the high, even if you seem to have forgotten. She didn't say that, but that was what it seemed like she was trying to do, in my opinion. And then over on the other side, Aries brought her mom and her sister to meet Phil. Right. I was like, okay, so the first person that is actually bringing a parent as opposed to like everyone that is bringing like a cousin. So can I just say, Aries' mom is so gorgeous. She is so beautiful. I was like, okay, girl, I see where Aries gets it from. Aries is so beautiful and her mom is just so gorgeous. Like, her mom is so fine. But anyways, I'm gonna stop gushing over her mom, man, and move on. So Aries' mom asked Phil like what her his leadership qualities. Next thing, he starts talking about, wanting to bounce off Aries, and she has such great leadership qualities and all of that. And I'm like, dude, okay. She asked, what are your leadership qualities? That's a very direct question. How did Aries get in it? Don't get me wrong, right? It's always important if you are in a partnership, relationship, whatever you want to call it. You have to collaborate. You have to communicate, right? Talk to me. Don't just make decisions, especially decisions that affect me without communicating them with me, right? That's just standard basic one-on-one relationships, right? However, if someone asks about your leadership qualities, I would expect you to be able to give your qualities, right? As opposed to you then saying you're going to piggyback off me. Like, I need you to be able to be a good leader in your own right so that I can trust you to make certain decisions. And you need to be confident in that place as a leader, right? As opposed to then you just being like, oh yeah, I piggyback off her. Like, okay, what if she don't want to make no decisions? Are you going to be able to make decisions? What if she's incapacitated? Jeez, that word just did not want to come out, right? Like, what if she's incapacitated and cannot make decisions? What happens then? What happens then? What happens next? And so I feel like those are like the little things that I feel like should have come through in his response that did not come through. And when I tell you that Aries' mom and sister were not impressed, they were not impressed. So now, girl, they started talking about Jesus, okay? So she starts asking him about, like, his faith and whatnot. He's like, he believes in God, but he does not believe in, like, religion, or he does not practice a religion, but he's leaning more towards, like, self-practices, which are more in line with Buddhism, right? And so she's like, huh? The way she looked like, girl, you didn't tell me he was not a Christian. She did not like that. So then she's like, oh, how would that work? She believes in Jesus. And then Phil starts talking about the fact that, yeah, he's open. Like, even on one of their previous dates, they prayed. He blessed the food and whatnot. And so then she's like, okay, so how about you pray for us then? So then Phil decided to say a prayer and then ended it in the Lord's name. And Mama said, in Jesus' name. I'm like, Mama was like, the only Lord I know is Jesus. And so we gonna get his name right here. I'm like, okay, Mama. Did you actually pick up that Phil was like rubbing sweat off his face? Like, he was stressed out. Honestly, if looks could kill, Mama Aries was not having any of it, Phil. She really wasn't. So Aries' sister asked a question about like what he does and stuff like that. He started talking about like stand-up comedy. She's like, does he pay the bills? Like, does he make money? He's like, not yet. And everyone was like silent. They were thinking like, what is this? Because like Aries is a grown woman with 2 kids, right? Like, she can't be dating someone who does not seem financially stable, does not seem to have like much going on for him. Like, I'm sure like he's going to come out and explain his career if he hasn't done already. But I just feel like you've had multiple opportunities to talk about your career, talk about what you do, talk about all these things. But every time the point of stability comes up, it's like the way you talk always comes across as like you have something to hide. You're not financially stable. You come across very, very childish when you talk about like stability. Because the truth of the matter is, at that age, people need stability. Even at a young age, at my young age, I need stability. If you're not stable, I'll be wondering like, yo, do I want to put my life and intertwine my life with that at my age? No, not to talk of someone who is 41. Her sister said something that I think also struck a chord. She was like, what do you think dad will think of him? And I'm like, oh, that must have really, really got Aries to sit down and think. Like, don't get me wrong, I could tell that Aries was definitely hesitant about deciding to choose Phil to begin with. But I can only imagine as someone who, like, because she's someone who lost her dad, that like saying something along those lines could even make her like really, really think like really deeply, like, do I want to put myself in this situation with this man? So Jessica decided to bring her cousin to meet Murray. And so her cousin pretty much went on and said, you know, Jessica's a boss. How do you handle that? And he's like, he's a boss too. I'm like, okay, quick question. Boss of where? Like, what do you do, Murray? Like, I still don't know what you do. But anyway, Murray then basically said that his goals, short-term goals, would be to start another restaurant. I'm like, okay, so it sounds like he's into the food business in some way. And then they started talking about how Jessica was feeling like she doesn't want to be strong all the time. She wants to be able to like cater to her man as well, like switch off the boss thing. So I'm like, okay, so it's interesting that you want to be able to do that, but I guess you weren't willing to do that with Chris then. I guess is what they say. Different people bring out different things out of you. And Marius started talking about how he wanted to get married and how he really wants to get married within the next 2 to 3 years. And if Jessica is down now, they could go down to the courthouse. I'm like, okay, well, I don't see it happening for you guys. Like, of course, I always wish you guys well and all of that, but I don't see the connection on screen. So unless they're hiding stuff from us, I really don't see no chemistry there, I'll be honest. I really don't. If you guys see chemistry between them and you think they will make it, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let's address it. Because I don't see any connection there, I'll be honest. So everyone met over on the bridge, okay? Aries and Phil were the first ones they showed. Phil gave his speech and then told Aries, I choose you. Phil also gave Aries a baseball with a heart in it. She thought it was really sweet because her dad was a baseball player and the coach. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So initially, when I wanted to do this review earlier, one thing I was going to say was I feel like she grew up having a provider in the home, right? And that is the reason for that. However, when she was on a panel that I was in the comment section of tonight, she talked about not necessarily growing up with a silver spoon and that her father was a baseball player in the 70s, which was very, very different from being a baseball player now. And that at some point, her father literally had to work his way back up. And so I feel like there was a time where financially they didn't really have a lot, but then he worked and built himself from the ground up whilst Aries was maybe perhaps in her teenage years. I don't know. Let me just clarify. She didn't say this herself in terms of the teenage years, but I'm just thinking that it would make sense that she grew up seeing him work so hard to make things happen for his family. And so for that, naturally, he wants a man that would be willing to do that and not a man that does not seem to have a clear vision or a clear purpose, a path for his life. I say all of that just to say she chose herself and I couldn't be more proud of her. I feel like she was smart in doing that. She was smart in deciding not to settle. I can just tell that Aries is a woman who is making bank. And if you don't know what making bank is, let me know. It just means making money, right? And I feel like it's clear she's accomplished, she's successful. She needs to be dating another successful man, or at least someone who is clear about his goals, visions, leadership, has a clear plan, is working hard towards it, and has a fallback career that he's actually doing whilst trying to pursue these things that are still in line, right? So I feel like that is probably the only way, I think, because I know people are like, oh, you can date someone and like, but I feel like dating in your 40s is different, right? Most people dating in their 20s, they've like worked so close with someone who had nothing. They've tried to build him up to get to a certain point. They've tried to build together with people. But in your 40s, I feel like you get to a point where you make a certain amount of money. You have a certain type of lifestyle. You don't want a man that would change that lifestyle and like bring that down. You want someone that would match that lifestyle or even elevate that lifestyle for you, because you've been doing this by yourself, If you can do all that by yourself, you want someone that when they join the team, they can elevate the team, not bring the team down. So let's move on to Maury and Jessica. So first of all, I was like, why is Maury dressed like that? Honestly, I do not like Maury's fashions. I don't understand who dresses him. I don't know why he chooses to dress in that way. Anyways, he chose her, she chose him. She talks about she loved his willingness for them to find some sort of safe space when they disagreed about like religion and whatnot. Honestly, I don't see a connection between them. I don't really see any chemistry between them. I feel like if they both go on to date after that, I feel like they settled and they're just tolerating each other. That is just my opinion. I said what I said. Now let's talk about Quentin and Janelle. So Q basically said to Janelle that he chooses her and he's excited to see where things go. And then in his confessionals, he started telling us that, he's open to adopting a child and he is more particular or interested in his partner than in having children. I'm like, dude, weren't you the same person the other time talking about, I really want children. I want a big family. I want 3 kids. All of a sudden, your tune has completely changed. I don't really believe people when they say this. I feel like these same people get to a point where they then become resentful because something does not work out for them in that way. So I don't really believe that at all, I'll be honest. Well, Janelle also chose him, so we'll have to see what goes on and how things work out for them. I wish everybody the best, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it. If you've come to this point, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you like, share. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So please support your girl. Let's try and hit that mark. I feel like it's been a bit hard hitting this 1,000 subscribers, honey. So please support your girl. Please get us to 1,000 subscribers. And I am waiting for that reunion part 1. I will tell you that. I just want to see what the hell was Tequila wearing. She just looks like feathers all over, like, ew. But like, I honestly can't wait to see it so that we can like discuss it in more detail. And please subscribe again. Give this video a thumbs up. Please make sure you share. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.